when the coffee arrived, they turned the cup,
Beautiful.
and I thought, wow.
I remember you telling me about just connecting with the families there. And it's almost a little bit of an emotional sort of feeling that you walked in there and you saw.
Coffee has the ability, with the right people getting involved, that can change everything.
Yes. I remember walking into that space one of the first couple of days of you being open. And I just remember more than anything, the level of generosity.
How can we bring ethical, sustainable coffee to a broader audience?
But then you again go and do something amazingly just generous.
If it doesn't ask how much a coffee farmer is paid for his or her cherry, what are we doing?
Well, brother, we've been talking a lot about the coffee industry. We're talking about the business, where we see it going forward, and we've really just been dreaming up the future. And so we thought, why don't we take this and put it in a way that we can just sort of express what we've been feeling. And I thought we should start off by talking about Mr. David Wallstra, the founder and creator of the SEAM brand. First started off as Third Space, and I thought maybe you can share a little bit about your story. How did SEAM start? Sort of at what point in your life did you dream this beautiful thing into existence?
I think before we start with Third Space and SEAM, is like where I came from, what was my background, and I think it started off in a very weird place. I think for my sins, I was part of security business, 16 years in security, 11 in my own business, and it was a great business. We had a beautiful structure. I gave my staff 26%. It was debt free. It was so unique at that stage. The B guys couldn't even figure it out.
Wow.
And it was wonderful until it became utter hell.
Sure.
When I sold the business, we had over 1,000 people. I started it from scratch, but it was a great business, and we did well. And I think during the end of my tenure there, I started traveling to places like Taipei and Singapore and Hong Kong, and purely because we were looking at technology to bring in to add value to our business. And it was there in those cafes that I fell in love with coffee, the hospitality side of coffee. Something simple. For example, there's a cafe Fika in Taipei, and this is before our coffee culture had actually developed. I think in the very, very early days, you might have had Vida, and this was, in fact, even before Father and Rosetta and the likes of the early days had been there, even before they were around. And started falling in love with it. And Fika, for example, the barista looked at me and it was engaging, and I felt amazing. And I placed the order, and I went to go sit down at the table. And when the coffee arrived, they turned the cup so that the handle faced it, as I'm left-handed.
Beautiful.
And I thought, wow, I love this. Absolutely love this. I love the taste of the coffee. This is before we had anything specialty. And I think that those were the early beginnings. And I think at that stage, I realized I then needed to exit and climb out.
Sure. And so from then you go, I need to connect with the coffee story more. And knowing your personality, no doubt that you dive deep into the rabbit hole. How did you find yourself in Burundi?
So I think this might sound weird, but I thought, okay, now I love the coffee. I love, everybody wants, I want a cafe, I want to do this, we want to roast anything that could to do with coffee. And then I had a look at the map, and I saw, Burundi seems really close by. I started speaking to a few people before started Third Space and SEAM. Started bringing in things like Achaia scales and Aleo bullets, and so I was able to engage with a few people in the industry.
Amazing.
And hear about how they viewed coffee at that stage. And then I found out about coffee farm. Ben Colson owned a coffee in Burundi. In fact, there were a few washing stations, Bukai and Heza, and I decided let's go and have a look. Let's go and visit and see what's happening there. And that was my first sort of introduction into coffee.
I remember you telling me about just connecting with the families there, and it's almost a little bit of an emotional sort of feeling that you walked in there and you saw poverty, but then you also saw the solution to some of the suffering on the ground through specialty.
Absolutely. I think what I realized at that stage is that coffee has the ability, with the right people getting involved, that can change everything.
Yes.
And when I started visiting the farms in Burundi, I saw firsthand the abject poverty of which a government washing station has, compared to just those inklings of something a little better, where the right people who got involved with the coffee, where the people were paying above the cost of production, where they might have paid them a little bit more and ensured that better quality, better processing actually had an impact on the lives of those farmers and the farming families. And I think at that point, that was everything that we did from there on had an effect on the moment at which you saw that. It's almost like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
So knowing and understanding that coffee above the cost of production can enhance people's lives and send 3 out of 3 kids to school,
It's beautiful.
instead of being in abject poverty. All right, that was done. So everything we've done
Amazing.
pivoted on that point.
I'll never forget that, because for me, obviously loved specialties since I discovered it. Just the fact that the premium nature of it, the fact that there's complexity in the product.
Yeah.
But when I met you, when we started chatting, and I started using SEAM, or Third Space at the time, in the cafe that I was running at that point. And I remember you telling me that story about this family in Rwanda who could not send their kids to school, but now could send 3 out of 3 kids to school. And I remember just sitting back and going, wow, this is coffee.
Yeah.
This is something that people consume almost as a ritual, and, you know, in some ways almost seems superfluous to life, but it's actually almost the basis for some people's lives, to the degree where people are actually going to school because of this relationship between you and I, which, you know, almost could just seem to be, you know, mundane in some ways.
Yeah.
So, lest we become emotional, which we tend to do at times.
I could do very easily.
Let's talk about the Third Space concept. So you buy this building in Craighaven, unassuming building. I remember seeing your first post on Facebook, of all the places. I don't even know if Facebook still exists. That's a joke. I remember you posting a picture. I still remember the picture to this day. It was a picture of the inside of the building with a face brick.
Yeah.
New specialty cafe coming soon, co-working. And I still just remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is coming to my area. How was that all birthed?
So I think when I first wanted to get involved, we thought, all right, okay, roastery, we want a roastery. So the first thing I did was find out where we could get a nice roaster, and I started interacting with some guys in Australia, and Sachs, who own Pablo and Rusty's, said, you know, this is the roaster, you need to get it. So the first thing I did was get involved, get on the line with these guys, and I ordered a roaster from Portugal. And it arrived, and it sat in a warehouse for, I don't know, maybe a year or something like that. And during that time, I was always going to look for, and I was still in security back then. I was transitioning out. And then I was always wanting to look for something that looked industrial, you know, like a Cape Town vibe. And I eventually found a building. I think I begged this guy for the better part of 18 months to buy it. It was one of the only ones that was sort of individually owned. So it was in a strip mall in the Arbus place. And eventually I phoned and said, all right, they're coming out, and I bought it. But then I basically created more problems for myself, in that the entire thing was double volume, 9 meters up, and it was plastered. And I got a team in to strip all of that plaster down to the red rink. And the guys were in there for, I think, a couple of months, and I'd walk in, it was a dust bowl, and I was like, what the hell?
What have I done?
And then during that time, we were going to put the roastery on the bottom, and then we decided to move it up to the top and create a co-working space. And that's, the thinking was to create a space in which we can present the specialty coffee. Yeah.
I remember walking into that space one of the first couple of days of you being open. And I just remember, more than anything, the level of generosity. I remember the heart and the value of the space. Just the almost exuberant sort of generosity. The the heart with which you were serving people. You, in your, I think you were wearing khaki shorts probably,
Probably.
and flops. I remember that.
Yes.
Just unassuming, serving people, giving free coffees, engaging with people, and I mean that sort of marked our relationship. But I think Third Space at that time was my third space. What was this concept? How did that come to you? What is the concept of Third Space?
So the reason we call it, and I say we, it's only me at that stage, but
Yeah.
the reason it was called Third Space is that your home is your first space. Work is your second space, and third space is where you go to create community. It's where you engage. It's where you build up your network, and that's what we wanted to create with third space. So the whole thinking was to be generous. The size of the tables were bigger than they needed to be. The space that we'd normally allocate, even interior designer would say, well, you need this, you need 60 centimeters. We're like, let's increase this.
Amazing.
We found chairs from Pedrali, which looked minimalist, but you could sit on them the entire day.
They
cost us an absolute fortune. We went with solid 32 mil oak. We wanted to be, the best. So everything was about how people could enjoy the time in the space.
Beautiful.
And I think during our tenure there, we won South African Cafe of the Year twice in a row.
Amazing.
We didn't set out to do that. It was never our intention. Our intention was always about the coffee, but the process kind of birthed this beautiful space, and it was loved, and I think people really enjoyed being there. But the one thing that was quite apparent to us at that stage is that, and we always thought, all right, it's specialty coffee. It never was that. It was a co-working space that happened to serve specialty, but it's exactly the platform we needed to grow and birth SEAM Coffee.
Brilliant. How did that happen? Where did you face certain complexities, certain challenges in the early days where you thought, actually, I need to pivot, I need to change direction?
So I think we were just trying to establish ourselves as a specialty coffee roaster. The co-working space was because I happened to own the building, so we created that, and it became something special. And then we put a lot of effort into that, and things we put on the menu, and people loved and enjoyed it. But I think one thing that people might not have realized is that place was full every day, and it had an exceptional following, and it had the most loyal customers. But it was actually never really profitable as a business. But it was, like I mentioned, is exactly what we needed to launch SEAM Coffee. That was always the crux of what we wanted to do, is how can we bring ethical, sustainable coffee to a broader audience.
Beautiful.
So it was required, as much as, if you look at it in terms of rands and cents, it didn't make sense.
Yes.
But it was the right thing.
Beautiful.
And we're glad we did it that way. Yeah.
So then we sort of untethered ourselves from the SEAM space, and again, as you do, we go on this beautiful journey to doing wholesale pretty much, and seeing an amazing and huge upward trajectory in that space. But then you again go and do something amazingly just generous, and you sell your house to buy a Porsche 911 money level Loring roaster. What possessed you?
So, but it wasn't only the house; it was actually the building as well. So both of those together, and reinvested pretty much all of that money back into the business. But we like everyone, we'd gone through a lot of issues with COVID. I mean, COVID really sort of set us back substantially. We're on a nice trajectory, but everyone went through a tough time in that. So I said, look, I can see the potential there. I can see where we're heading. If we really want to differentiate ourselves with what we do, we know we've got good coffee, we know we've got the right relationships, but how do we really do that? And then I started looking at Loring roaster. Loring is arguably the best specialty roaster in the world. And I said, all right, let's go for that. And we didn't even go for 15, we went for a 35. And we reinvested that money back into the business. there was a whole lot more than just the roast. There's sort of infrastructure, there's the technology, there's a whole lot of things that thought let's do it. And then that's where that second phase of our business came out, is where we sold the building and then moved to our own roastery space.
Yeah.
And that then has given us the ability to scale up, which brings in the 4 pillars, which is source, roast, supply, and support of our business. And in fact, that decision really just suddenly we were growing exponentially. Absolutely. Because we were focused on exactly our intention of what the business was supposed to be, which is source, roast, supply, support, ethical, sustainable coffee.
But again, that pillar that I see in you and that, you know, we espouse as a business, which is generosity. You know, the fact that you would sacrifice, and many would never know, not even in our own organization would know what you've sacrificed for this business to be where it is today. And I think that needs to be said. But that's an act of generosity, because you were living comfortably, you had just built a very successful security business, you chose to give it all to really invest in this business that was made to see the farmers' lives changed, and back to that original thought of, you know, 3 and 3 kids going to school and giving people career opportunities. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But from a sourcing point of view, we then also went into relationship with the guys at Raw Material. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
So I think it starts a little bit earlier, in the security days, when it gave people 26% debt free. And on, again, you know, let's call it my tenure there, I was able to see that those people were shared in dividend on a yearly basis. And when I exited, I think they shared in excess of 10 million rand. I mean, that to me, that's what true BEE is about. It's not about, it's not about making an individual richer. It's about broad based. I think that's actually what's real. In fact, I hope we'd see a lot more of that in the years ahead. But it started there, and I could see the difference it would make. And then we go to farms, and we could see the difference it would make then. So we always said, all right, how can we then add value upstream and down? And then during that time, I started traveling a bit more, and we went to more coffee farms. And then through Ben Jenkin, friend, I met in Burundi, and eventually came down and started roasting for us and helped set things off. He introduced us to Marahu Trading. Marahu Trading are our partners in Rwanda. We've been with them, I think we're going on for 8 seasons now. And throughout that relationship, we became very close. And I loved what they did. They paid the farmers a second payment. They really increased value. They increased the quality. They increased the yields. So those farmers were really well looked after, and that you could see. And we wanted to partner with them. And I was honored to be invited to Gautam, and his brother Karthik run Marahu Trading. There's 8 washing stations, and one of them is a ladies' own cooperative, Vunga. But I got invited to his wedding in Pondicherry in India. And it's a Hindu wedding, and you can't drink with anything. 5 days you got to talk to each other. and during that time, I met many people. Culture Row was there. He's like the Canadian barista champ. In fact, the who's who of coffee was at this wedding on this beautiful beach in Pondicherry. And at that time, I didn't have any coffee heroes. I've never been, I listened to James Hoffman and Matt Pergan, and like, this is great, and I love this. These guys have got some beautiful stuff. But I was never starstruck until I met Matt Grady, and Matt Grady's visionary thoughts about the economics of coffee was I was bowled over. Wow. I never knew I had a coffee hero until I met Matt Grady. Wow. And Matt Grady, with Richard Corney, they had Flight Coffee, which is one of the top spaces in New Zealand. And Richard Corney, World Barista Judge, incredibly credible guys. And I spent time with Matt, and I learned about how you can create economic freedom through coffee in our lifetime. And that was like, I'm hook, line, and sinker for this, because we keep talking about coffee helping farmers, and we keep saying direct trade relationship, transparent trade. It is, in my opinion, I'm just being blatantly honest, is a different level of BS. Because if it doesn't ask how much a farmer is paid for his or her cherry, what are we doing? Raw material is beautiful in that they're set up as a non-profit organization that delivers 100% of the green profits back to farmers. So whatever we pay raw material, after the costs are sorted out, 100% of those go back to the farmers. So that is our relationship with raw material, and we would get from Rwanda, Burundi, Colombia, Mexico, and Timor-Leste. So we are focused on all 5 of those origins, or buying from all 5 of those origins, because of the 100% return to farmer.
Beautiful.
In a world where coffee farmers are earning cents, raw material has taken the system and turned it on its head. There are instances where coffee farmers are earning profit. Now farmers don't know how much profit they make. But there are instances where they're earning $1.65 or sometimes up to over $2 in profit, not in payment, in profit. I mean, what better system is there than 100% return to profit? And on top of that, the quality is incredible. They've helped increase yields. We know year after year we're getting raw material coffees, and people are going crazy for it. And that's just one of the systems that has worked, and we continue to partner with it.
Beautiful. So that's the source pillar, the roast pillar. We've just spoken about the Loring, arguably being one of the best roasters in the world. And it's funny because the heart of what we do is to put specialty into the hands of people at scale.
Yeah.
It's one thing about having a beautiful offering, and you and your 10 friends are really enjoying it. Even more so when many are enjoying it, where the farmers are really seeing volume coming through those kinds of farms. And specialty, obviously, as we've said, speaks of quality, speaks of the premium nature of coffee. But why should everyone not be drinking that level of premium quality? But then it doesn't stop there, because the green is quality, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
The green's got to be quality, and then roasted in a way that reflects that quality at scale.
Yeah.
And so you sacrificed a lot to bring in the Loring. And so we now have the ability, which I have to say, not very many do, to do specialty at scale, at this level. And of course, Chris, who does the roasting for us, who's basically an alchemist and a genius, who really labors what he does and loves what he does. He comes in on the roasting front. And then, of course, because you and I come from the sort of corporate business environment, we've spent a lot of time working on systems and structures. So the supply element then also then comes on to that.
Yeah.
And that supply element means that our customers not only get the most premium green that's helping people, it also gets roasted consistently every time. At the time of recording this, we're doing just under 8 tons a month of coffee, and we're doing it consistently across hundreds of cafes, Johannesburg, Cape Town. And then, of course, when I can supply that, we've got a very sophisticated sort of supply chain and methodology that we've worked on, and that we still add to, which we'll talk about in further episodes. But then, of course, our support division. You want to chat about why that was so important?
So I think, as you've alluded to, I mean, we both come in an environment where we sort of understand the corporate side of the business. And funny enough, a lot of what happens in roasting is very much the artisan style. It's like, start in my garage and I love this, and let's roast this up, and it's great. And then you start moving to specialty, and this is where I'm just going to be sort of blatantly honest, is that there is the moment you move into specialty, there's a kind of pretentious nature about it. And it's almost like we've got something nice. We own it. We're going to ring fence it. And if 10 people are high-fiving each other around the cupping table, our jobs are done. I mean, it's never been our ethos. We're saying, how can we open up specialty to a broader audience? So we've taken there's a fantastic book called Unreasonable Hospitality, which is a guiding light for a lot of businesses, and I urge everyone to get a copy. They talk about 2 things: restaurant smart and corporate smart. And in Restaurant Smart, saying it's like, this is how we do things, and there's no real structure, but it's great, and we'll get around, we'll just do it. Corporate says, how do we create structure about it? And coming out of that, I mean, the clients, just to show you, in my security business, we had clients like Anglo American, Oppenheimer's, Score Metals, AfriSam, Corrobrick, the AVI Group. These are incredibly good blue chip customers. And I learned a huge amount on how business works and what is expected and how to do things, and the structure and the systems and the protocols and the operations. So we've taken what we learned in that and then adapted it to our own business. And that has allowed us to scale. It has allowed us to ensure we create valuable career paths for individuals. That has allowed us to show that we're adding both value upstream and down. And I think that balance in our business is what has ensured our success to where we're finding ourselves right now.
Which is exactly, where the support element comes in, because it's not just, hey, here's some beans, enjoy. Yeah. We actually, which is in some ways a grudge purchase.
Yeah.
Because there's no revenue necessarily linked to the support division. It's all out of that sense of, we want to help people. Absolutely. So we don't want to just put good coffee in their hands. We want to help them to make that coffee in the way that it should be made, the best way that it could be made. And so Claire, who heads up our support division, has just won, at the time of recording this, Coffee Trainer of the Year.
Yeah. South African Coffee Trainer.
Yeah, South African Coffee Trainer of the Year. And she's also a director, or on the board of directors at SCASA. Yeah. So, and then we've also got a team, Johannesburg and Cape Town, that looks after our customers. So again, just this sense of, we really want to do what we do well. Yeah. We want to take you along on the journey. And I think maybe in closing, just share with us, brother, how you feel the origins of your story and the origins of the SEAM story still permeate in our story to this day.
So I think there's, for us, it's a process of ongoing improvement. We in coffee, you never arrive. It's a journey. But I think where everything started to where we're finding ourselves, and for that matter, where we're going, I think it's important, and I said earlier, is that we add value both upstream and down. And we know where we're getting our coffee from. We know where it's being sourced. We know that we're taking care of the roasting aspect of it. And just a little bit on the law end, which is interesting, it recycles its own energy. So by recycling its own energy, not only is it energy efficient, it gives us better consistency. And by giving better consistency, that means that when we are training people to give them support and help them through the process, there's no guessing what they mean by this coffee, or is it like this way or that way. The consistency is what creates the platform to give the people the support so that we can train and replicate those numbers and increase their sales. I think from that side, the origin has been vital. As I've explained earlier, we know about what's happening at farm. We know that we can add value into that process. But I think right now, where we're finding ourselves, it's about how can we start to replicate this at scale? We take a boutique operation and say, how do we enhance this and open it up and open specialty to a broader audience?
Absolutely.
So I think origin story certainly played a huge role in the basis of it now, along with the structure, along with and including even the mistakes we might have made along the way. It certainly shaped us. But now it's about opening this up to a broader audience.
Beautiful.